Powered by the Montana Television Network. This is the 5:30 News on Q2, Montana's news leader.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Russ Riesinger.
And I'm Jeanelle Slade. Word of a trade deal with China sends stocks soaring and potentially means a boost for farm and ranch trade.
A little bit of optimism from the president means stocks surge as investors hope for a U.S.-China trade truce.
Details of the preliminary trade agreement are still emerging, but President Trump is calling it a substantial phase one deal.
Now, this news comes after weeks of ongoing trade tensions with China. The president told reporters that intellectual property theft, currency matters, and purchases of $40 to $50 billion worth of agricultural products are included in that deal.
The initial deal means a tariff increase scheduled for next week will not go into place. The president says finalizing the agreement on paper would take 3 to 5 weeks.
Well, it's been a busy day on the campaign trail here in Montana.
Here in Billings, Representative Greg Gianforte announced a Montana business plan idea as part of his run for governor. Gianforte told a group of supporters gathered at Action Electric in Billings that he wants people from across the state to help him build a business plan.
He revealed a website for people to send him ideas. He believes the nation is on the right economic track, but says Montana needs a tune-up.
I think the state should take a page from the national playbook, lower taxes for all Montanans, both income tax, property taxes, as well as reduce the excessive regulations that hold back businesses.
Gianforte told us this summer he would not run for re-election for Congress, but wanted another shot at being the state's chief executive.
Gianforte's new website is montanabusinessplan.com.
One of 4 Democrats running for Montana governor has rolled out his first major policy proposal. Casey Schreiner wants to make 2-year college tuition free for eligible Montanans. Now, the program would offer tuition-free education at Montana's 2-year programs, including community and tribal colleges. It would be open to Montana high school graduates from the previous year and other students who enroll in programs for in-demand occupations. Now, the latter group would also have to agree to work in Montana for 2 or 4 years after graduating. The other Democrats running for governor are Lieutenant Governor Mike Cooney, former state legislator Riley Neal, and Missoula businesswoman Whitney Williams.
This coming Monday is Columbus Day, a federal holiday recognizing Christopher Columbus's arrival to the Americas on October 12th, 1492.
But this holiday to some is a controversial one. They say celebrating Columbus Day is celebrating someone who brutalized and demeaned Native American people more than 500 years ago. A number of states are legally changing the day to Indigenous Peoples Day.
Montana among those states pushing for a change. Q2's Zoe Zandora standing by now with more. Zoe?
Yeah, a number of states, including North Carolina, Alaska, and Maine, have shifted to reorienting the Columbus Day holiday by renaming it. And some in Montana are taking a stand to try and do the same. Democratic Rep. Shane Morshoe introduced Bill 219 to replace Columbus Day as a state holiday in October with Indigenous Peoples Day. The Montana House endorsed the bill back in February, voting and passing Bill 219, 62 votes to 38. It then went to the Senate, where it was heard in the Senate State Administrative Committee on March 13th. Then shortly after, the committee tabled it, killing the bill on April 1st. Now, I spoke with Morshoe on the phone today, and he said it's what it's going to take to make this name change in Montana is who is elected and who is educated. And some cities and companies in Montana are taking action. The cities of Missoula and Bozeman have already changed the day to Indigenous People Day, and Shane Morshoe hopes the trend will continue. Russ and Jeanelle.
All right, thanks, Zoe. From winter wonderland to a return of fall this weekend, Ed McIntosh is here to show us what we can expect. Ed.
Well, when it comes to fall, it always comes down to leaves. So
yes.
A warning for sensitive viewers, this does involve math. Let's take a look and see. We had to take a look, and conservatively, the average tree holds about 150,000 leaves. That means they all come down, and somebody took the time to count them and determined it takes about 360 of those dry leaves to make up a pound. So that means by the time you get raking up one tree, that's about 400 pounds of leaves. And if those leaves are wet, that could be up to 4 times greater than that. Well, the weather's all coming together to dry those leaves out. We'll take a look at how much warm up we can expect. The forecast is only a few minutes from now.
All right, thank you, Ed.
Well, this week's snowstorm covered most of the state in white.
Q2's Jenny Fix spoke with Mick Gannan to hear about the effects on greenery.
Thank you, and we are here at the Ganans Heights Flower and Garden. I'm going to talk a little bit about that big early frost that we just had. If there's any hope for garden plants and trees.
Well, the trees are smart enough to know what's going on and stuff, and they'll generally make it just fine. We were kind of in the height of our starting to peek into our fall colors and stuff, but most of that stuff will be on the ground within a few days and stuff rather than enjoying it for a few weeks. So container gardens that you can protect, a lot of those will probably be okay, particularly if they're on the south end. Anything that's out in the wind and stuff is probably pretty well finished. Shrubs and roses are going to be prematurely settling down a little bit, but it's time to really get out and kind of do some cleaning and heal everything in, all your new perennials and shrubs. A little bit of compost around each one of them and stuff will definitely help them get through the winter.
Is it too late to be planting like bulbs or maybe some of the more hardy autumn plants?
Perfect time to be planting bulbs.
The giant one.
All of the tulips and hyacinths, crocus, daffodils, all of that stuff right now should go in the ground now.
Awesome. So for everything, there's a season, and now it's kind of the season of the pumpkin. You've got something special with pumpkins going on?
We do. There's a gentleman in town that grows these huge pumpkins. One of them is set up for guess the weight of the pumpkin. And so if you come in to do that and stuff, you will win the pumpkin plus a $250 gift card from Ganans. But United Love is a really cool program, and that's for the iPads for folks that are in the hospital and stuff. So they raise a lot of money and they do a lot of good. So that's the side of the community thing that we like to get involved in.
Awesome. Well, thanks for doing it, and thank you for having us today. We're going to send it right back to you guys in the studio.
All right, thank you, Jenny.
Now, the Heights Ganans greenhouse is open throughout the winter.
As you may know and experience, many parts of Montana remain without adequate high-speed internet service or cell phone coverage. That's the topic of this Sunday's Face the State on MTN stations, following up on a series of reports last month by our chief political reporter, Mike Dennison. This Sunday, Mike will talk with Jeff Feiss of the Montana Telecommunications Association and Jason Pond, who owns Grizzly Broadband, a small internet service provider in Hamilton. Feiss and Pond will talk about efforts to build out more high-speed internet service into parts of the state not served. And they'll also address the difficulties and cost of serving some of these areas and what it may take to bridge this rural divide. Feiss says it's hard to imagine reaching hard-to-serve areas without some sort of government help, and that those sources probably need to be expanded.
Just the general notion is that it's an expensive business, and we haven't finished the job. We're actually looking at possibly encouraging state legislators. Many states have programs that augment federal programs. The return on investment just isn't there. You can't make a business case for serving rural America.
You've got to have some help somewhere.
You need some sort of subsidy and some sort of assistance, and state and federal government has a role.
And the show airs this Sunday at 6:30 in the morning and then again at 9:30 the same morning here on Q2.
And there's more news from across our state tonight. Time to sweat. Service members at Malmstrom Air Force Base take a test of endurance, all part of Fire Prevention Week. That story and much more on the statewide MTN News at 9 on the CW.
But first, still to come here at 5:30, trade wars. A former Montana senator speaking out on the relationship between the U.S. and China.
And in sports tonight, Scott sets up tomorrow's intriguing football matchup between the Cats and Sac State, plus shows us tonight's marquee matchups in high school football.
You're watching MTN News with Jeanelle Slade and Russ Riesinger, Storm Tracker weather with Bob McGuire, and sports with Scott Green. This is the 5:30 news on Q2, Montana's news leader.